Okay. So, hello everybody. Welcome to today's Chosŏn History Society Zoom talk. My name is James Flowers. I'm a research fellow in Kyunghee University in Seoul. I researched the history of medicine in Korea. So, before we begin, let me say a couple of things about our organization. The Chosŏn History Society is a non-profit scholarly society launched in 2020 with the goal of building public and shared resources for understanding Korea's past. Our previous talks are available from our YouTube channel, so please subscribe to our channel to have a look at the previous talks and to get new content updates. You can simply type Chosŏn History Society in the YouTube search box to find the channel, or you can check out the link if you look in the chat box. Our talks cover a wide range of topics and time periods, including those beyond the scope of pre-modern Korea or the Chosŏn period. We also encourage scholars working on interdisciplinary research and comparative methods to take advantage of this opportunity to address their work to a wider audience. Also, as a non-profit organization, the Chosŏn History Society also accepts tax-deductible contributions to support our activities. Your donations really help to support our activities, including helping to pay for our Zoom subscription and the cost of hosting the website. So you can check out the donation site in the chat box. And before introducing the speaker, I'd just like to ask if there are any Chosån History Society board members here who can briefly say hi to everyone. Do we have any board members there?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Chosŏn History Society Zoom talk. My name is Sean Han, and I teach Korean history at the University of Alabama, and I serve as the board member of the Chosån History Society. Welcome, everyone.
Oh, we have one more board member there. Oh, is that Jin Hyung? Hi, Jin Hyung. Anyway, so before we introduce, okay, so today's speaker is not yet Dr. Meng-heng Lee. So Meng-heng Lee is main research focus is the legal and political history of Chosŏn Korea and Sino-Korean relations. So he was doing his PhD in pre-modern history at Columbia University. His dissertation articulates how a Chinese priest and his illegal crossing of the Sino-Korean borderland contingently shaped anti-Catholic legal practice in late Chosŏn Korea. So this work highlights the critical but underestimated roles that Qing-Chosŏn relations played in the Korean legitimization of anti-Catholicism. So one more piece of news is that Meng-heng very recently defended his PhD dissertation, and that, well, congratulations there. And he's going to take up a postdoc at University of British Columbia early next year, I believe. So congratulations again for that. So Meng-heng's main research focus, I've already said that. So today's talk is titled Ming Legal Statutes and Korean Practice, Revisiting the Chinsan Incident of 1791. So please give a nice welcome to Meng-heng Lee. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Flowers, for introducing me. And good morning and good evening, everyone. I'm Meng-heng Lee. And before I start my presentation, I want to first extend my greatest gratitude to Sean and the members of Chosån History Society who give me this chance to share my research. And today I'm going to talk about this topic, which is a part of my dissertation. And I think when you look at this topic, Min legal statutes and the Korean practice revisiting the Chinsan Incident of 1781 and 1791, I think you might have some questions in your mind, such as why I'm going to focus on this Chinsan Incident, what was this Chinsan Incident, and why I'm going to highlight the legal dimension of this case. So in order to answer these questions, today I'm going to divide my presentation into following parts. And first, I will going to explain what the Chinsan incident was and to talk about why I wanted to do this research. And then I will start to probe into the legal reasoning of the chosen ruling elites in this case, and to look at how they practice Ming laws in chosen soil. And in order to show like the ways, the unique ways in which the chosen ruling elites were practicing Ming laws, I will show the similar cases regarding Catholics and the destruction of ancestral wooden tablets in Qing China to show how Qing Chinese were dealing with the similar legal issues. And then I will go back to focus on what role did King Chォngjo played in this Chinsan incident. In other words, how King Chォngjo finalized the final adjudication. And before I end the presentation, I will highlight the key contribution of this study. Okay, so what was the Chinsan incident and why I wanted to look at this case study? Actually, Chinsan incident was about two Yamban Catholic converts whose name were Yun Shichun and Kwon San-yeon. They were arrested and decapitated in 1791 because they refused to apostatize. But the most important thing about their so-called crimes was that they refused to hold Confucian-style funerals to their deceased mom, and they also destroyed the ancestral tablets. As we know, Chosŏn Korea was a highly Confucianized society, so the destruction of the ancestral tablets and the refusal to conduct a kind of a Confucian-style funerals were regarded as kind of unforgettable behavior. So that's why they got arrested and then decapitated. But as I said, this case was very special because it was the first case about it was the first Catholic-related cases in which various of legal statutes, including the Korean statutes and Ming laws, were invoked by the state. And also, one thing I forgot to mention was that both Yun Shi-jung and Kwon San-yeon were from very famous Yamban descent groups. Kwon San-yeon was from Kwon San-yeon was from the Kwon family, and Yun Shi-jung was from the I think it's the Haeju Yunshi, yeah, or and also because these two people were from the very famous Yamban family, so their violation of this kind of social norm and cultural practice showed that the ruling elites were actually violating the fundamental value of the state. So how to legally justify this anti-Catholic stance revealed intervening of the social norms and cultural practice political factionalism, and Korean kinship. Okay, so because this is a unprecedented event in Chosŏn Korea, which means there was no any kind of previous cases regarding Catholics or Catholicism can be referred to. So this case has been researched and touched upon by many scholars, and they made many important points, including first, political factional strife was highlighted as the driving force behind the adjudication, and also in the case, it was argued that the Ming laws were used, also misused and abused in this Chinsan incident. And King Chォngjo was described as being passive in following the legal suggestions of his ministers. And the one thing I also want to notify is that this Chinsan incident was mainly situated in merely the Korean context, which means that despite the fact that we have similar cases regarding how to deal with Catholics or the destruction of ancestral wooden tablets in Ming-Qing China, I didn't see any previous studies trying to compare the similar cases in the two so-called Confucian states. So I think this is how my research can differ from the previous studies. So in this work, I reinterrogate the significance of the Chinsan incident in Korean legal history by comparing it to the similar cases occurring in Ming-Qing China. And also I highlight the crucial roles that the King Chォngjo played in the final adjudication, which means I don't agree that King Chォngjo was passive in following the suggestion or instruction of his ministers. And then I will demonstrate how Ming Chinese statutes and the legal analogy were selectively applied in Korea in dealing with a Catholic-related legal case. And so let's move on to the legal reasoning of the Chosŏn ruling elites and the ways they practice Ming laws. So since it was a unprecedented cases involving both the spread of the Catholicism and the law, so the ruling elites resorted to different kind of legal statutes to tackle the case. So I will go through them one by one. So the first legal statutes invoked by the ruling elites was this one, prohibiting sorcery, wizard, and witches, which is a codified article in the Great Ming Code, and which is mainly aimed at secret religious sects. And because of this nature of the article, so this law was invoked in 1616 in Ming China, Nanjing, to deal with the cases regarding Chinese Catholics. So it is unsurprising that the Chosŏn ruling elite was also invoking the same article to deal with the case of Yun Chi-chun and Kun San-yeon. However, one thing I should notify is that I should point it out is that, as you see here in this kind of legal language, the screenshot, there is no one offenses like burning ancestor tablets was included. And as we know, according to the Great Ming Code, every kind of a ruling or adjudication should be made according to the codified article. So that implied that other legal sources were needed in settling this case. Additionally, according to the legal language, the criminal, the ringleader who committed this crime would be sentenced to strangulation. However, as I briefly mentioned before, Yun Chi-chun and Kun San-yeon were decapitated. So this suggested that we definitely have to look at other legal statutes that were also called upon in the case. So then let's move on to the second one, and also the most important and controversial one in this case. The title is very long, which is called Destroying and Abandoning Wooden Tablets of Parents and Grandparents, and the criminal should be decapitated by analogous to the provision of destroying the bodies of parents and grandparents. Why this legal sentence is so long? Because as you see here, it was actually stated in the interlinear commentary of the Great Ming Code. So it is actually, because it's talking about by analogy, so it was a by analogy provision. It was not a codified article in the Ming Code. And another thing I should highlight is that this by analogy provision was not found in most extant versions of the Great Ming Code. It could only be found in the following two versions. One is the version that was being used in late Chosŏn Korea called the Daemyeongyul Pure. Now is preserved in Kyujanga Institute of Korean Studies in Seoul. And another can be found in the by analogy article sections of a judging version of Ming Code. And also, if we look at this legal languages meticulously, we could find actually there was another additional sentence stating that all this kind of regulations regarding wooden tablets were deduced by previous jurists, and thus they were preserved while not being used. This suggested that when the Chosŏn ruling elites were looking at this Daemyeongyul Pure or the particular version of Ming Code and decided to invoke this by analogy provision, they definitely had also read this sentence, but they ignored it. So I think that's why some previous studies had argued that this is a kind of a misuse or abuse of Ming laws. And another thing I should also emphasize was that this version of the Great Ming Code was not unchallengeable, because we can find a case in which its authority was overridden during the reign of King Chjóngjo. It was actually happening in 1733, and it was a case about a matrisecular who died before he received the penalty. So because the killer died in the prison, so the minister requested the king to authorize the stabbing of the body of the criminal according to the commentaries of the Ming Code, the Daemyeongyul Pure. However, the king denied the request and argued that it was merely the deduction of the jurist because it was stated in the commentaries, and it is not a codified statute. So he did not allow the stabbing of the body of the criminal. So in this case, we clearly see that the chosen king, as the ultimate arbitrator, could actually override the written laws. And this case also showed that King Chjóngjo, what King Chjóngjo did, sharply contrasted to the decision that King Chjóngjo made in 1791. I think that's also why some studies have been arguing that King Chjóngjo was passive in this legal case. And this is the controversial commentary in the 1733 case. As you see, it's stated in this kind of interlinear commentaries of the article of killing the grandparents and the parents. However, as here you can see, this particular legal language was stated in the newly promulgated regulation in late Ming. So it was not merely the kind of deduction by the jurist, it was actually a promulgated new regulation. Given this, we could still say that the Chosŏn King actually had the authority to decide whether or not they want to follow the written laws of the Ming Code. Yep. So if we look back at the Chinsan case, what I would say is that the King Chォngjo acquiesced to the legal suggestions by his officials. So why he did so deserves more attention, and I will elaborate it later. And also, I would also say the ruling elite's intentional legal borrowing, selecting, and recommending resulted in the two converts' decapitation. But there are still two legal statutes invoked in this Chinsan case, one of which is the sentencing on the basis of punishments for the more serious crime when two crimes were discovered together. It was a codified article in the laws on punishments and the general principles of the Great Ming Code. And the invocation of this article implies that from the eyes of the ruling elites, both Yun Shichun and Kwon San-yeon violated concurrently violated two articles. One is prohibiting sorcery of a wizard and witches. Another is destroying and abandoning wooden tablets of the parents and grandparents. So that's why the ministers proposed the invocation of this article, and it was approved by King Chォngjo. But King Chォngjo did not end it here. He actually added another accusation of Yun Shichun and Kwon San-yeon. He applied this law, a Korean-promulgated article called the violation of free fundamental bonds and 5 constant virtues to the two Catholic converts. So because this is a Korean codified article, so it could not be found in the Great Ming Code. And one thing I should highlight is that if we follow the definition of someone who violated this crime, violated this kind of a law, then it could only be applied to those who kill their parents and the slaves who kill their masters and the public slaves who killed their superiors, which means that whether or not this article could apply to Yun Shichun and Kwon San-yeon, who merely destroyed the ancestral tablets, was questionable. So it needed someone to make this invocation possible, and King Chォngjo was the one. So as I will elaborate later, I will tell you how King Chォngjo was making this invocation justified. So after we see the 4 kind of legal statutes invoked in the case, I think you might have some questions like if the by analogy provision of the destroying and abandoning wooden tablets of parents and grandparents was such a key laws that was being invoked. Was this invocation a legal misuse or abuse? And this also relates to the second question, which is so was the same provision, does that mean the same provision was not being practiced in Qing China? Yeah. So in order to probe into this kind of issues, I'm going to show you the similar cases regarding Catholic related cases and the cases about destroying ancestral tablets in Qing China. So actually we can find many similar cases in Qing China. What I found was that Chinese Catholics who also destroyed the ancestral tablets in the case of 1732 were not executed. And also the by analogy provision did exist in the Great Ming Code and was frequently invoked in at least 19th century. So we can see the kind of legal difference between Qing China and Chosŏn Korea. And it seems like Koreans were observing the written laws of the Ming Code more particularly than the Chinese were of the Qing Code. So let's look at the cases more deeply. So in the cases of 1732, it was a case happening in Guangdong area. And according to the local officials' report, many local residents converted to Catholicism by trampling and burning the ancestral tablets. But after the local officials arrested them, none of the converts got executed. Instead, the converts were divided to two groups. One is the local converts who were from Guangdong. They were banished to area far from their home province. And for those converts who were from different provinces, they were sent back to their hometown. And if the converts were female, they were also sent back to reunite with their family. So we can see here in this case, the Chinese authorities was actually granting a kind of leniency to Chinese Catholics, which sharply differed from the case of the Chinsan Incident of 1791. Okay. And what I want to show you in this slide is the same by-analogy article about abandoning and destroying the wooden tablets of the parents and grandparents can also be found in the Qing Code. And this is the first version of the Qing Code. And as you can see here, it was stated that those who abandoned and destroyed the ancestor tablets would be decapitated by analogy to the destroying and abandoning the bodies of parents. So it was a law existing in the Qing Code. And more importantly, it was frequently being invoked in Qing China. Here, I found at least 3 examples, and I think the most important and interesting one is the second one, which happened in 1826, which is about a man who killed his nephew, who damaged the man's ancestor's portrait, not the wooden tablet itself. And from the decision of the local officials, it was stated that the man was accused of killing someone who committed the crime, inflicting death penalty without authorization. And the nephew was also legally accused. He was accused of abandoning and destroying the ancestral tablets. So in this case, we see that the accusation against the man who killed his nephew implied that destroying the ancestor's portrait was a kind of behavior that could inflict death penalty, which also echoed what we could see the stipulation in the by-analogy provision. So what I wanted to highlight is that this by-analogy provision was a living law and kept being called upon in real legal cases. So in this sense, I would say that the Chosŏn ruling elite's invocation of this by-analogy provision could not be seen as a legal misuse or abuse. It's just a kind of a different kind of a legal choices. So then I will move on to the role of King Chォngjo, because as I said, there are 4 different kind of legal statutes being referred to in this Chinsan case. And the third one, when the 2 crimes were discovered together and the violation of the three fundamental bonds and the five constant virtues were the one approved and added by King Chォngjo. So it shows that King Chongjo's roles cannot be ignored. Let's look at it more deeply. So I will mainly talk about King Chongjo's three key decisions in finalizing the ruling. First, I will talk about how he prevented a kind of attempted political purge in the name of anti-Catholicism. So because Yoon Sichun and Kwon Sang-yeon, they are Kwon Sang-yeon is from so because Yoon Sichun and Kwon Sang-yeon, they had a personal kind of political affiliation to the state chief state counselor Choi Jae-gon, who was a kind of very close political ally of Kim Chongjo. So people outside of the political center, including this Lee Gi-kyun and Moon Man-jun, they called for a political reshuffle and to banish these people who allegedly have the ties with the two Catholic converts, Yoon and Kwon, to the place to banish them outside of the political arena. But what Kim Chongjo decided was that he did not allow Choi Jae-gon's resignation. Instead, he punished those called for political reshuffle. So, for example, Lee Gi-kyun was sentenced to banishment, and Moon Man-jun's sons was banned from taking civil service exam. So by doing so, Kim Chongjo actually, while he approved the execution of Yoon Soo-jung and Kwon Sang-yeon, he stopped a kind of attempted political purge. And the second key decision that the Kim Chongjo made, as I mentioned briefly previously, it was about his approval of the invocation of when the two crimes were discovered together, and his additional invocation of the violation of three fundamental bonds and five constant virtues. Regarding Kim Chongjo's approval of the invocation of when the two crimes were discovered together, it was actually a very rare case during Kim Chongjo's reign, because if we look at other records about criminal cases that involving death penalty, and what we could see is that Kim Chongjo was reluctant to invoke this when the two crimes were discovered together, because he was aware of the fact that once he approved the invocation of this article, the criminal would probably be sentenced to death. But in this Chinsan case, he approved this invocation. So it suggested that Kim Chongjo regarded Catholicism as a kind of threat to the political stability of Chosŏn Korea and his own rule. But how should we understand his calling upon or referring to the article of a violation of three fundamental bonds and five constant virtues? Because it could only be applied to a very limited crimes. So I think one possible approach to this legal application is a royal edict issued by King Suk-jong in 1685. It was about a case in which a man burned the body of his father, who allegedly died of infectious disease. The man did so because he was afraid of being getting the disease by his father's bodies. So the king and his minister treated this case as the violation of the three fundamental bonds and five constant virtues. That is why this King's Edict was issued, and later this edict was codified As you can see here, the language was like, those who burned the bonds of their fathers will be convicted of violation of the three fundamental bonds and five constant virtues. So when we looked at this key decision made by King Chォngjo, what we can say, and what I would say, is that King Chǒngjo actually linked the burning of the ancestor tablets, destroying the patient's body, and the burning of the bones of parents together to invoke the violation of the three fundamental bonds and the five constant virtue, this article, to settle the case. And so here we can see his like strict observance of written laws. But I think King Chǒngjo also made a third very important decision in this Chinsan case, which is his redefinition of the term perverse teaching. How he did that? He actually, when discussing this, how to close the case, he actually drew on a case regarding living Buddha of 758 to emphasize that he's sentencing the two Catholics to death was a very like strict kind of a punishment. So he thought that the case should be closed here. And in order to do so, he even said that the living Buddha case of 1758 should be called as a perverse teaching case of 1758, or 무인해서 사학. So what was the living Buddha case of 1758? It was actually about the four female shamanists who lived in Hwanghae province and who claimed that they were living Buddha. And because local residents were strongly believed in them, so they even destroyed the ancestor tablets and stopped conducting ancestor ceremony. And after learning this case, Kim Chǒngjo dispatched a secret circuit inspector to arrest the living Buddhas and executed at least one of them. Interestingly, in the veritable records of Kim Chǒngjo, Yeonjo-실록, those four female shamanists was called enchantress or yoño, and no any kind of a term or sentence associated with perverse teaching, sahak, was stated. And only when King Chǒngjo was talking about Chinsan Incident and drawing on this living Buddha case, he used the term perverse teaching to define the case of this four female shamanists. So that's what I say. Kim Chǒngjo actually redefined the term perverse teaching to justify his way of handling this Chinsan case. So as we can see here, Kim Chǒngjo actually played a very important roles in approving the invocation of those statutes and also adding another legal charge against Yoon Shu-chun and Kwon San-yeon. And in order to close the case, he even redefined the term perverse teaching. So if I may like highlight the key contribution of my study, I would say that this study shows Chosŏn ruling elites' deep understanding of the Ming Code and their contribution toward preserving Ming legal practice and the Ming legal analogy. And also, I think this study articulates the different legal actions toward Catholics in China and Korea by demonstrating how the ruling elites selectively choose the statutes applying to Yoon and Kwon. And this is why I use the title Ming legal statutes and the Korean practice. And then this study also highlights King Chongjo's active role in the case. His way of approving the invocation of some statutes and additionally invoke another statutes and redefine the definition of perverse teaching. So this case reveals the intervening of a legal practice, legal rationale, and social norms, cultural practice, and Korean kinship. Okay, I think I will end my presentation here, and I welcome all questions from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Meng-heng. That's great. So I see. Yeah, so if we were with you, we'd be applauding. So applause from the audience. And okay, Q&A. We have about 30 minutes. So please prepare your questions and comments. So you have a choice of two options. So one, you can just use the raise hand function at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and then you can speak directly to Meng-heng with your question. Or if you prefer to type your question in the chat box, you can do that. So you can send the question to the whole group, or you can send it to me privately and I'll read out your question. So it's your choice. So, okay, we have about 30 minutes. So who'd like to start off with a question for Meng-heng?
So if I may start the question, first of all, Meng-heng, thank you so much for this fascinating talk. And I see it's not just the King Chongjo and other Chosŏn officials that are meticulously looking into the legal code. Yeah, you itself that has a very meticulous analysis of different legal codes and provisions, different editions to come up with this result. So I really appreciate your meticulous work with this fascinating result that we have heard so far. And the thing that mostly fascinated me is the kind of the political ramification of what this legal decision that King Chongjo made in terms of putting more harsh punishment and execution than being lenient, like the case we saw in contemporary China, Qing China, and other cases. And I want to hear a little bit more, if I may, if you can kind of repeat a little bit more about what kind of factionalism that you're thinking of when how this particular punishment will impact the forces that are loyal to King Chongjo and people who are against the absolute monarchical power that Chongjo tried to present. So could you could please repeat again that how Yoon Si-jung and Kwon Sang-yeon, the two culprits who were beheaded because of this unfortunate choices made by King Chongjo, how they fit into this existing factional political struggle in late Joseon politics.
Okay, so thank you for your questions. So I think in Chongjo's reign, he tried to promote the policy of Dampyeong, right, to actually have a kind of a balance between different political factions. So he actually made the Chaejegon. He made the Chaejegon as the chief. I think it's a left state councillor. But at the time, there's no chief state councillor. So Chaejegon was the main figure. And for Yoon Si-jung and Kwon Sang-yeon, because they had the kind of like marital kind of ties with like Chon Ya-gyeon or like the with the family of Chon Ya-gyeon. And Chon Ya-gyeon is also the kind of very close political ally of King Chォngjo, and they also affiliated with the faction called Southerners or Naming. So when people were attacking the members of the Naming or Southerner factions, they were using this, they were capitalizing on this Chinsan incident. They said, see, the two Catholic converts were all from the Naming factions. So Naming factions were somehow like evil or polluted, so they should be kicked out from the court. And that's why I say it's a kind of attempted political purge, but it was failed because King Chォngjo saw that and he stopped it. Yeah. So thank you for your question, because I think this is too detailed, so I didn't talk too much in my presentation, but it's a very important background and the context to understand that this the political factor of the political background of the Chinsan incident. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a question in the chat box. I have to read it out. So for the recording, so it's from Monty Norton. So was Protestantism involved in any significant way? If so, was it differentiated from Catholicism or included with it?
Yeah, I think it played a very important roles in also in late Chosŏn Korea, but there's some gaps between the introduction of Catholicism to Korean Peninsula and the introduction of the Protestantism. So for the case of the Catholicism, it was first officially introduced to Chosŏn Korea in 1784 by Lee Seung-hoon, who was also a member of the Southerner faction, and he was dispatched to Beijing as a kind of the member of the tributary missionaries, and he was baptized in Beijing, in the church in Beijing. So he officially introduced this Catholicism to Korea. And the Protestantism was introduced quite later. It's not in the 18th century, it's in mid-19th century. Yeah.
Okay, so we have another question in the chat box. I have to read it out for the recording. So this is from Jin Hyung-so. So thank you very much for today's presentation. The part of your presentation where you compared Chinese legal systems and judicial cases with those of Chosŏn seems to deepen my understanding of what the meaning of Chosŏn's ruling on the Chinsan Incident was at the time. So did King Chォngjo refer to any Chinese cases in addition to Chinese law when making the judgment on the Chinsan Incident?
Okay, thank you for raising this fantastic questions. As far as I know, King Chォngjo didn't directly mention the Chinese law when he made the decisions, oh, in China it was the law was invoked in this way, so we should do it in this way. He didn't do that. But he has his own kind of understanding and his way of interpreting the law. So I think that's why I say it's a kind of a Korean practice, because although they are using the laws, the statutes from the same source, from the Ming Code or the Qing Code, and the Qing Code was actually largely the Ming Code was actually largely received by the Qing Code. They are somehow connected. So that's why I said, although they're Chinese laws, they are Ming statutes, they are statutes of China, but it was practiced in a kind of a Korean way. Yeah. I hope this answered your questions. Yeah.
Okay, any more?
Thank you.
Any more questions from the audience?
If I may, I want to ask another silly question, somewhat unrelated
No,
to the core topic of your research here. But when you mentioned about the incident of the living Buddha case, I forgot the
Okay.
exact date. I wonder why the believers, worshippers of the living Buddha also burned their ancestors' tablet. So for Catholics, ancestral tablets are referred as idolatry. So it was the direct violation of the Ten Commandments in the Bible. So it was for them a very important action to do to kind of fulfill and address their sincere faith in monotheism. But why living Buddha had to burn the ancestral tablets? I'm just curious.
Thank you for raising this pretty important questions. I think when I was introducing this case in my talk, I was a little bit wavering how should I use the language, because again, like King Chォngjo's redefining the definition of perverse teaching, there are two different description of this for shamanist or living Buddha's case. So in the veritable records of the King Chォngjo, Shillok, actually the original description was because local resident was so addicted and believed in the living Buddha, so they stopped worshiping the city god, Chen Huang. So it's not about destroying their ancestor tablets, but when King Chォngjo was reflecting on this case in the Chinsan case, he mentioned that those local residents were destroying the ancestor tablets and stopped worshiping ancestors. So there are two different versions of the descriptions. But I don't know which one is more credible, because, well, at least I know they stopped worshiping the city god. But whether or not the local resident, because of their belief in living Buddha, they also stopped worshiping ancestors, their ancestor, or destroying their ancestor tablets, it's actually remain questionable, but because it's actually stated by the king. So that's why I use this kind of language in the slides. Yeah, but you raised a very important point, which is probably they didn't have this kind of strong reason to destroy the ancestor tablets, because it's unlike what Catholic teaching said, it's about the idolatry. Yeah, so I think that's why I chose to use the language in my slide, but I also want to clarify that there are two different kind of descriptions about the impact of the living Buddha case.
Any more questions? Okay, so we have a question in the chat box. I need to read it out for the recording again. So this is from Jin Hyung So. So although such comparisons can be somewhat ahistorical, what do you think of Choson's legal decision when compared to the Qing's legal judgment in similar cases to the Chinsan Incident? Prior to the Chinsan Incident, Chosŏn intellectuals tended to express confusion and concern over the sudden growth of Catholicism in their society, which they attributed to the Nammin faction. The occurrence of the Chinsan Incident turned their concerns into something closer to fear. King Chォngjo sought to execute those involved in the Chinsan Incident, but he aimed to limit these executions to the judgment of the local government rather than making it a state-level decision. In your view, what are the legal and symbolic differences between state-level judicial decisions and those made at the local government level in the Chosŏn dynasty?
Yeah, thank you for raising this, I think, very meaningful questions. I think you're right. This is a kind of a very like central level case, and there are also other cases happening in at the local level, and the ways that the local authorities deal with the Catholics and Catholicism might have some gaps with what the central government did. But I would say that for King Chォngjo, it was like his main focus was like not to make this Chinsan incident a kind of a trigger of further political purge. So that's why he resorted to like the kangsang-choe, the violation of three fundamental bonds and the five constant virtues, because he wanted to apply this, I think, one of the most serious criminal charge to Union Kwon to settle the case. But actually, I have to mention, like in the later anti-Catholic campaigns issued by the Chosŏn government, you won't see the invocation of this, the violation of the three fundamental bonds or the by analogy provision, because the way of anti-Catholic practice was reshaped again, because this time they feel like they got more threats from outside, from either Qing China or from like Western countries. So the legal statutes invoked by the Chosŏn government in the later anti-Catholic persecutions were very different from this Chinsan case. So this Chinsan case is very, very unique. And also, as you said, yeah, there was some gap between how to deal with the Catholic cases in the central government and local government. As far as I know, some Catholics got arrested in the local area, had been imprisoned for more about 10 years before they got executed. And why they got executed? Because then there was another major anti-Catholic campaign launched by the central government. So we can make a kind of just a hypothetical like imagination, like, so if there were not those kind of major anti-Catholic campaigns like launched by central government, maybe those Catholics arrested in the local area would not be executed. We don't know, because the result was that they got executed after they got imprisoned for 10 years. Yeah, that's what I can answer you at this moment, and I hope this actually answered your questions. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we have another question in the chat box from Sung-Yop Shin. So thank you very much for your presentation. I was wondering if the Gyeongguk Taejon and other revised Chosŏn legal codes had nothing to do with King Chongjo's judgment on the Chinsan Incident.
Oh, actually, like did have something to do with King Chongjo's ruling. So, for example, as I say, the violation of three fundamental bonds and five virtues was codified in Sokdaejeon. So it's a revised Chosŏn legal codes. It's from a revised Chosŏn legal codes. Yeah, and so Chosŏn laws or Chosŏn legal codes did play roles in the ruling. And it's not merely in this Chinsan case, but also in later persecutions happening in like 1801 or like 1839, 1866, yeah, etc.
So
Yep.
from the audience,
Question
I'm
from
actually getting
Sean.
some inquiries about where I can see this the dissertation or where I can find the journal article. If it's already out there, can you tell us where we can find it, or if it's about to come out, if it's a part of a forthcoming journal article? Could you give us a little more kind of preview of where we can have more access to this incredible research?
Oh, thank you so much for your praise. Actually, I have sent this revised like the part of the chapter to the journal of I think it's the journal of Sunken Journal of Eastern Asian Studies, and I have already revised it, and it's under the second round of a review. So if everything goes smoothly, it will be published in early in the first volume of 2026. Yeah. Thank you.
Any questions, comments?
Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
So if there are no questions or comments, so we'd like to thank you again for the fascinating talk, and thank you also for everyone who participated from different parts of the world. We hope you'll continue to show your interest by attending our Zoom events and sharing your thoughts and ideas. We have already received quite a lot of suggestions and proposals to help shape our programming. And please, if anyone out there would like to make a contribution by sharing your research as a speaker, please get in touch with us. And we're going to stay. So we're going to stop the recording, but if you'd like to stay and for a few minutes to chat with Meng-heng or some of us, you're welcome to stay for a few minutes afterwards. But before turning off the recording, I'm going to ask Chォn to say a few words about this, about our organization. And
Yes.
well,
So thanks again, Meng-heng, for your fascinating talk, and Jane for moderating this session. So one last thing that I want to reiterate is we exist thanks to your support and contribution. And what I mean support, we accept donations to cover overhead and pay for digital infrastructure like the Zoom account, our website, and our Google Workspace. So help keep our activities going by supporting our organization by tax-deductible charitable donations. And Chosån History Society is a nonprofit organization incorporated in California, United States. And if you are a taxpayer in US, Canada, your donation to our organization can be tax exempted with itemized deduction. So thanks again for your participation and your attendance today. I look forward to seeing you all again in our forthcoming events in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for having me.
thank you. Thanks for your presentation. Yeah.